Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Active Youth program right here on the Managing Pacific FM. Yes, the Active Youth program is a youth program happening right here on the Managing Pacific FM that seeks to inspire change among the youth of Ghana. My name is Active Youth Sarah Hama, your host. Yeah, Active Youth, it is a very beautiful Sunday evening, and right here in the studio of the FM is my active self. Active Youth is Rahama with my Active Youth panelists right here to give you very interesting discussion. Like we do it always, we educate you, inspire you, and challenges you to be the best of yourself to ensure that you contribute meaningfully to the development of society. But before I come to introduce to you the people I have here in the studio, I just want to remind you that COVID is still there. Let's still adhere to the safety protocols by wearing your nose mask and ensure that you wash your hands with soap and running water, and ensure that you stay away from crowd. Keep a distance from people, and also ensure that you do everything necessary to ensure that you are safe. Yeah, so Active Youth today on the Active Youth program, we're gonna have an interesting discussion today on education. I'm very excited. I was giving good news before the entire thing, so really very excited. But we're gonna have a discussion around education. But before that, I want us to take a look back. Okay, last year there was a pandemic. It still exists, but it all started last year and had imposed a devastating challenges on education across the world. We realized that this has also undermined learning opportunities for students at the junior high school levels, lower levels, and then higher education. COVID-19 has also made it very difficult for young people to connect with their peers, and currently even making education a very difficult thing. Schools have resumed, but students are unable to have the life they used to have before COVID-19. Just currently on my campus, there's a circular saying that there is going to be a suspension on all social activities on campus, and students are not happy with that. Those are some of the things that makes campus life more lively and interesting. All these are taken away from students, and we also realize that COVID-19 has actually before COVID-19 there was already some challenges with the educational system. I've realized that 53% of children in low-income countries had challenges with learning. They had learning poverty, very difficult to read and understand text at the lower ages, between at age 10. And we also realized that a 250 million of young people dropped out of school. But after COVID-19, now we have realized that more than 1.6 billion of children have dropped out of school. This have called for the intervention of many institutions, including World Bank. That is currently working with 62 countries across the world and supporting with more than $4 billion in relation to COVID response in relation to education. All those things are happening, and today we are here to actually have a discussion around that because today is International Day of Education. 24th of January in 2008 was declared International Day of Education by the UN General Assembly. So that's 2 years ago. So we are here to have a discussion around that, especially on the theme for this year: recover and revitalize education for the COVID-19 generation. There's still a lot of things inside the theme that we will be exploring, most especially with our guests. And we're very privileged to have very resourceful people here in the studio who will help us digest it better and also get to understand more about how we, the young people, can contribute to the team, especially at this very critical time. It's a very difficult time. We see how we can all contribute to helping local NGOs, international NGOs, and institutions in trying to bring the situation back to how it used to be, or bringing it back to a better state for the benefit of everyone. So without much ado, I'm going to I introduce to you my guest I have in the studio today, Tariq Al Hassan. He is a Lead for Ghana fellow. He has been here before, but I think with a similar discussion, something on education had to do with community development during COVID-19. They had an initiative that supported the people of Sagnaruku with nose masks and education on COVID-19. I also have here a role model, my own mom, Hajia Hafsa Seisumani. She is in charge of programs, policy, and partnership at NORSAC. Hajia, Tariq, welcome to the studio today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I come to Tariq. Tariq first, starting with in relation to the theme, recover and revitalize. Education in the COVID-19 generation. When you say COVID-19 generation, in relation to the theme for this year's International Day of Education, how do you understand that, and how will you explain it to myself and my good listeners out there?
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm very happy to be here once again. Regarding this year's theme, recover and revitalize education for the COVID-19 generation, the basic thing is that you look at the period that COVID-19 has covered, almost more than a year from now. It was started somewhere the ending of 2019, that was December. And then schools, especially for Ghana, schools got closed, all social gatherings somewhere in March 15th. And from then till date, especially for lower levels, especially primary schools, they haven't even gone back to school since then till date. So you ask yourself, what have they been doing? And then the effect of that becomes very great, especially in those from rural communities, those from families that has, that are poor. Especially when everybody was advised to resort to digital learning or online learning platforms. These people couldn't have access to that. So they don't even have phones. Parents don't even have phones to access that. So the theme for this year is now trying to tell us, what can we do to bring these people on track, so that at least, if not catch up with those who have been able to access the online platforms, but at least they can also get ahead in certain ways. How if not just to even get to where they are, but at least they can get what they have lost. Because when you look at the things that they were supposed to cover, now all of them have been promoted from P5 to P6, now P6 Form 1.
When they
have virtually done nothing in P6 or perhaps P5, or even when you consider lower primary, they have virtually done nothing. So how can we do? So this time it's now going to be a collective effort. Parents, teachers, and guardians, everybody has to come together to ensure that these people are able to, if not revise, but at least get something, because now they have to move on. But what about the lost? How do we recover that? So that's what we are now going. How do we recover that? And how do we then ensure that their interest in education is kept ignited? Because you realize that some of them have lost interest in going to school. Most of the kids, some of them even started vocational activities. And now that schools even reopen, some of them don't even want to go back. How do we bring their interest back? How do we increase their enthusiasm? So that is why this team, and it's very important. I'm very happy when I saw the team, because if we are able to consider all these factors and ensure that these kids, we bring them back on track, at least we can get something. But here is the case, most of them are left behind, especially my interest here, especially at Lead for Ghana, we are considering the lower, especially those from disadvantaged communities, those schools that has no access to basic facilities, especially ICT and online platforms. They don't have access to those things. So how do we bring these people on? How do we ensure that these people are able to catch up with those in in the, let me say, the advanced communities, or in those homes that are able to provide those things for their kids.
Okay.
So it's very important. It's now a collective effort,
Okay.
and we have to make sure that we recover what is lost.
Okay.
The time that was lost, we will continue, but we'll have to recover that time by ensuring that the kids learn, they revise, to be able to catch up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. It requires a collective effort. Thank you very much. So Tariq too is a teacher, lead for Ghana Fellows are teaching in different schools across Ghana, right? So he's also a teacher, so he has more experience when it comes to what's happening with the students. So Ajay, Tariq just mentioned something, a big loss. How long will it take us to actually revitalize everything, recover what we have lost, and what will you say about education before and education now?
Okay, so thank you very much, and to the listeners out there, I say a very good evening to everyone. Just to also make a little correction on my title, I'm the head of program policy and campaigns for NORSAC. I think that this International Day of Education, or we call it World Education Day, is celebrated every 24th of January every year. And I think when we think about all this, you ask who brought this up. And I just want to remind everyone there that this celebration is very, very important to us all, because education is a basic right for everyone. And so when the UN Assembly met, it was just a necessity to bring this up, to say that when do we remind ourselves that we need to bring on board certain issues about education. And I think that the celebration has brought a lot of discussion around this. And to say that it's a very new day, because this is just the second celebration. Yeah. And so it's not like the other ones that has been 20 years of celebration. Or this is just the second year, which I just want to let the public know. So you mentioned, and again, thank you, my brother, for bringing this discussion again. That you are a teacher. I'm just very happy that you are here with us, so that everything is not about the NGO talk and all that. He mentioned that we have lost a lot, and I think that is something that we all need to refocus on. So this year theme is very right, because it's talking about us to recover, revitalize. And in fact, we are actually going to depend so much on the COVID-19 generation. That is very important. Already, before we came into COVID-19, we had a lot of freedom as people. And so in our classroom setting, we had a whole number, especially the government schools, more than 50 in a class, up to 100 in a class before COVID. And so we asked ourselves the question, is that the same thing that we are going to do as we have come back? Also to say that our teaching period was as long as from morning till evening. Are we going to maintain that? Also to say that we just concentrated on the school teachers. So do we need other people on board? And for me, I see this year team to bring us back to the issue of we need to collaborate. We need a lot more collaboration. We need to think beyond just the school setting and involve many other stakeholders. And for me, that is what I'm looking up to. I think that without education, nothing can happen to us. And so for education to happen, we need to look at all the other strategies we can bring on board to ensure that these children are safe in their schools, as well as the teachers. And this is what I think that we need to look at in terms of the collaboration. Let's not sit behind and say that until NGOs come on board, until government does this. What about the communities? What do we need to do? And so before then, we're not thinking about all this. But now, what do we need to do? Everyone has to talk about education. And I'm happy you were talking about, a lot of them were in vocational school. Have gone to learn somehow skills and all that. But now, the question is, how many of them have come back to school? And in the next few weeks, we shall be bringing some data around to communicate, because we've sent a lot of information out there to see how many children have come back to school and what are we going to do next. This is some information that we'll be sharing very soon with us all, so that we'll look at, for us, every focus should be in the north. I have been asking myself the question, if any new opportunity that comes, the north will receive it last. Because the capital is in Accra, and there are so many regions before you get here.
Yeah.
And so even if they are going to dispatch something, the north will receive it last. And this is something that we need to think about. Every other thing we would get it last, unless of course it comes by air, which may not. Yeah, I mean, like when they send it by airplane or something, which will not happen. And so for me, I think that we need to refocus and think about what can we do before we get any intervention from government. What can we do ourselves? Okay. And these are the questions that we should be asking ourselves and looking at the alternative measures.
Okay. And you mentioned something about looking beyond the school setting. I want you to highlight more on that.
Okay, so apart from those of us who have the opportunity to send our children to private schools, if you look at the government school setting, I think 2 days ago I listened to the former education minister?
Mr. Matthew Booker.
I don't know whether he was the one, but he was talking about, oh no, it was the former health. And then he was talking about the schools are ventilated. And then I was looking at, is that what I'm seeing? Because he was mentioning something like, the government opened the schools because the schools would be less risky. Looking at the setting, if you look at the school buildings, there's more ventilated and all that. Then I said that means that the structures I'm seeing around here are different from those in the south. Because if you look at our school setting, actually there's no much ventilation, which is my worry now. This is something that we all need to look at. If you go to some of the private schools, they have done well. I may not want to set example of schools, but there are some schools, their schools are very much ventilated. And so if you go to the government schools, I'm not seeing that. And that is my worry now, which is more crowded as well. Because the private schools, most of them have not more than 30 in a class, which is okay. Some of them have even reduced to 25, which is okay. But government schools where we have 50, 70, 100, how are we going to divide the students? Do we have more structures? Are we going to run shifts? Because we are not even seeing the action. We are just hearing it on social media and all that. We have not seen an action yet. And I think that this is the week that we'll use to find out what actions the head teachers, and unfortunately they have left every decision now on head teachers and district directors, which is very unfortunate, because I was thinking that this should have been a national agenda, that of course you need to leave people to decide on what they can do within their setting, but there should be some modalities, and that is what I think. So the setup in the government schools, I'm worried, because one, the structures are not so friendly in terms of the ventilation we are talking about. Even the equipment or the items that we hear or we heard that they have dispatched, I'm yet to see a school receiving that. These are things that we should get worried about. And I mentioned already that the north is already far from the capital. And so what can we do before these items arrive? As parents, we need to get on board on this. If you have nose mask, give to your children. You educate your children that you need to always wear it, because in the school, and also that is not very good to our health. You can't wear this for a very long time. What education are we giving to the children? That if they wear it for some number of hours, they have to free themselves with it. These are things that nobody talks about. And that is why I said the school setting. It's just a problem for me. I wish that we would get a lot more action within this week, because we just reopened last week. And so if we get some action from the schools, then it may give some parents relief about the current situation we have.
Wow. I think this is getting interesting. We've always said it here. Anytime we have a discussion, so that the challenges are there, but we expect a particular institution or body to intervene. If there is no intervention, then you need to take the action yourself to ensure that you work within your own capability to manage the situation before whatever you're expecting comes. So thank you very much, Hadia. She's encouraging parents to take it upon themselves to educate more their children on the measures that can help prevent them from being affected by the virus. Thank you very much. I'll come back to Tariq. Tariq, teacher, school teacher. I think during your submission, you also mentioned something about students not completing their syllables and being changed class. I also read a research that showed that 53% before COVID-19 had problems with learning poverty. They couldn't read and understand simple text before age 10. And COVID has made everything worse. Okay, so some of them who could even, you didn't know, now you've gone home. For 9 months, you've not had any contact with the teacher to remind you some of the things you were struggling to learn. I believe things, I don't even know if the person can even remember what's the little thing they had. What do you think we can do? To help these particular, to help in this particular situation in relation to not completing syllabus. Do you think it should be worked on at a higher level so that probably during the exam, at least because it's not only a particular class, it cuts across all levels. So what do you think we can do in relation to that?
It's kind of a difficult situation. Even the reopening of the schools, the idea was that the first week, or they should just use the first a week or two to at least ignite the interest of the students by sending them back to what they did. That was some of the proposals that were being made. But even here, you open school for a week, students will not come. They say the first week, maybe cleaning, those things.
After staying home for 9 months.
You see the mindset. They won't come unless maybe the next week you see some of them coming. Mm-hmm. So it's a serious issue. That is why initially I said that it's now going to be a collective effort. Now parent has to come in, because once the kid leaves the school premises and come home, you have to be on him or her to make sure that he reads something. If you weren't doing it, this is the time. It's an opportunity for you to ensure that your kids do something. And I'm very happy Ajay said you have to support them, not just the nose masks or whatever, even reading materials. Even though we know it's difficult to some parents to provide, but you have to go extra mile to at least provide some learning materials for your kids, so that at least they can be reading some of the things that they lost. Because right now, a teacher has to continue. They are now in P6 or they are now in Form 1. He can't leave what they are supposed to learn currently and be teaching them what they didn't do. What about the things that they are supposed to learn now? So now the kid has to take charge of his or her own learning. We always encourage them. You have to ensure that your kids, they come home, they intentionally sit to learn, and you have to ensure that you are on them always. And then it's now very devastating, because some in the classroom situations, teachers make contact with students in a certain way. Some students have genuine challenges in terms of, as you said, reading or understanding. So sometimes you have to come very close contact with the student to be able to understand. And now even COVID has posed some restrictions, social distancing, all those things. So you see that it's now going to be even a greater challenge as compared to when COVID was not there. So the only thing we can do now, or the things that we can do, is to ensure that parents, they are supposed to be in the front line. Parents are supposed to ensure that when kids come back home, they sit and learn. We know some of them have started vocational skills learning. It's okay, it's good. We are encouraging kids, when they go back home, if they have time, they do that. But at least they should get space. Parents has to give the students space, especially the females. They do a lot when they go back to the home. household chores. Most of them, they do it. So at least this is the time parents have to ensure that they give the kids some space in the house to sit and learn. Even if they can get them extra class, I will support that. If they can provide them the support to go for extra classes when they go back to from school, it's okay. It's good they do that, because how would we recover that time? There's no way we can do unless we give ourselves that space to ensure that these kids learn, they revise, and parents have to play a key role aside what teachers are doing in the classroom.
Okay, thank you very much, Tarek. Yeah, just recently, we had a congress on campus, and we had to go around the Dungu community to find out, to educate the people on COVID-19. A man said something that I'm still thinking about. What he said was that, they send the children to school because they want them to learn and grow up to be people that can support them. But right now, they've been home for months. There is nothing happening. No one is saying anything, and so he has taken his children to go and work. He has gotten them into vocational training, and he's saying he wants them to stay there. He wants them to be there, because he's not sure of what school will give. He doesn't even know what will happen. He was not sure if students will go back to school. So such parents, I'm not even sure if he'll be encouraged now to take the child back to school. And he's not the only one. A lot more parents, a lot more families are having this challenge, especially the girl children. Right now, a lot of them they've given them to men to marry, because a lot of challenges will come up, and they think that may be the solutions to them. What do you have to say to parents who may be in these situations, and even the girls and even the boys who may have faced these or similar challenges during this period?
As a country, I think that we are also battling with education and vocational skills, those things, because sometimes we talk about, let's go back to the TVET era. Those days when we could learn, by the time you finish junior high school, you could do something on your own and you will feel happy. I don't blame those parents, but whatever it is, I always say that if someone goes to school and learns a trade, it's always better than just starting with a trade without going into any class. The person who has gone to school would always have an advantage over the one who has not been to school, even in learning vocational training. And so I will still encourage those parents. You see, you can blend the two, but you ask yourself, at what time, at what stage should I start this? I would always encourage that we leave the children to finish junior high school. Then you look at the interests, because sometimes you need to, it's not just about, I'm just going to let my child learn how to repair vehicles. At the end of the day, he may use 3 years to learn it, but may not work on any vehicle because the interest is not there from the beginning. So I always say that as a parent, even if you want to guide a child to learn a trade or to learn a skill, you need to ensure that the person has interest before. So it's not just about COVID has happened, I have sent a child to go and learn how to sew, how to do something, and then you leave the child there. I think that we still need to let them go to school. And I'm telling you that any child who goes to school and goes to learn a trade has an advantage than the one who has not stepped foot in a class. And so that is something that they need to pick up and still continue that. It's just an encouragement they need to. It's a little endurance to let the child go to school, actually. And you will laugh when the child finishes the school. I've not seen children who have just gone to school after senior high and learn a trade and fail. No. I don't think, unless of course and there's no child who is a dunderhead. That I've always been saying this. So we just need to find out the interest of the child. What is the child good at? And so you encourage the child to get to a particular level where reading and writing will not be a problem. Like you mentioned, if you cannot mention go or spell go, come, and all that, I mean, even if you learn a trade and you go, everything labeled is English. It's not that bad. And in fact, very soon it will be Chinese.
Actually,
You know,
even at the time,
so,
if you don't learn how to do
yeah,
that,
you have
won't
to.
be able
So that's why I said that if you go to school, it's an advantage.
Mm.
And so let's not just cut their life short by a child is in class 3, class 4, class 5, you take the child to go and learn a trade. It's not good. So for me, I think education is key in whatever and at whatever level. And so we need to let the children go. Even, let me just come back to you people, those of you in the university, those of you who have started doing businesses. I mean, you do business online. What is it not very different from the ones in the market? And you see, it's because you have gone to that level. You know how to get your customers. You know how to deal with doing with that, and you don't even need the store to sell those items. So that you see, that is an advantage.
Yeah.
You may not want to go and sit in an office because you're already earning some income of the businesses that you have started, and you are still in school. So when you finish, it's just an add-on. So this is something that we are. You see, education is just the bedrock to everything, and so if you have it, you are able to break through other issues and other channels. So for me, I think that they shouldn't cut the children's life short by allowing them to just go and learn a trade or a skill or whatever, and then say that that is the end. Though I still have issues with the community schools, which I think that maybe in subsequent discussion we may want to delve more into that to see how they should pick up, because the urban schools will definitely be different from the the rural schools, and that is also the difference. When we talk about the north and the south, there's a difference. Then when you come here, you still see the difference between Tamale, Savologo, you still the changes. And then you go into Tarpa and all that, very much, those ones. So we need to be looking at that. And you see, unfortunately, they all write the same exam.
Yeah.
And that is very unfair. Well, I'll say very unfair because of location and geographical, that is it. So these are things that we need to look at. So those of us who are running, they will never stop. They have to continue running. Those who are crawling, how can they move faster to reach up? These are the things that we should be discussing, generally, so that we don't continue to complain, government has not done this. Yes, of course, we know it's the mandate of government to provide certain things. But when government is not on its toes, what do we do? These are things that we can be discussing.
Okay, thank you very much. Education is a bedrock of everything. With education, you can break through other challenges. That's from Hajia. Have success, man. Thank you very much. It's still the Activity program right here on the Energy Pacific Firm. But it's time for me to involve you in the discussion. Right now, you can call me through 037-202-2261, 037-202-2261. If there is any contribution, any questions you have, just call me right now. My guest will attend to that. So the call line is 037-202-3261, 037-202-3261. I also want to remind you that we live on Facebook on the Active Youth page. Take your phone, go to Facebook, type Active Youth. You see Hajia, Tariq, and myself. If you have any comments also or any contributions that you think, you can leave it there in the live video. I'll read it here for you. But you can also send a text message to 024-2691-461, 024-2691-461, or call through 037-202-3261, 037-202-3261. Okay. Tarek.
Yes, please.
I just want to find out if you return to school. Do you have all your students coming back healthy?
We've returned to school, but not all students have come.
Okay.
That's the challenge. As I said earlier on, some of them have gone to learn vocational skills. And we are still reaching out to parents to ensure that at least they come back whilst they still do their vocational learning or whatever it is. I am very happy I just touched on that, because the mindset is always that go to school, finish get a job. You see, that's why the parent who said he has taken the award to learn vocational skills, because he's not thinking that it's not just about the job, but at least to be able to think, analyze issues within the community as an educated person. If you are educated, you'll be able to think critically, analyze issues, and contribute to community development. And how you can do this is through the skills you've learned. If you have learned vocational skills, you can apply that simply, and you'll be ahead of your colleagues, those who didn't attend school. Everything is about reading and learning. If you are a seamstress, how do you take measurement? You learn how to take your order, but the writing of the measurement you've taken, how do you do that? All these things, it comes. And even if you are a seamstress, remember, even NGOs and government give contracts, and they will only give it to someone who has certificate.
Okay.
The one who is educated, the one who can read and write, the one who can speak English. Once you cannot do it, how do you get contracts? You only go about walking around the streets, seeing your colleagues turn clothes and all these things. That's not vocational skills. Okay. That will not improve your life the way we want it.
You can have the talent, but still not be able to enhance.
So it's very important. Parents begin to think that way. Education is not just about to complete, get a job, but at least to think critically, analyze issues, and contribute to community development.
Okay.
Yes. So not all the kids have returned, but we are still working on that. We are reaching out to parents to ensure that everything is sorted well, and then we have them back on track. Yeah.
Okay. But did you receive any news that someone didn't come because they got pregnant?
Not for my school, but we have had several cases of that.
Okay.
Especially for Sabilgo district.
Okay.
They say some of them even have given birth to COVID. Yeah. So it's worrisome. Some have married, some have even given birth. Some through teen pregnancy and all this.
Okay. So Haja, with all these issues, does the NGOs have a package of some kind of support for these girls, because they still need to go back to school? Any support?
Okay, so I think that NGOs are already doing a lot out there, providing education, providing sensitization and all that is part. There are some NGOs who also do direct support in terms, especially for girls. I know CANFED is there, but currently I don't know their scope of work. But what I know is that you may not get the direct support for now, but 2020 has just started, and a lot of organizations also went on recess. I think almost every organization went on recess last year, and so this is just the time for planning, and we are all sourcing for resources or funding from our donors, and so these are things that we are all bringing on board. That is why I mentioned that we are still doing some data analysis to see who has not gone to school and what is the reason and all that. I think some of the teachers are also providing us some of the information, just for us to be able to say this district is more behind than the other. And so we are currently doing that, and we'll be sharing that very soon. In terms of NGO work, I think NGOs will continue to work on issues, especially with COVID has come to stay. And so we'll be looking at other support systems that would ensure that the children are in school continuously. And so the interventions will be diverse. This is what I just want to say, that interventions will differ from each of the organizations that we have. With NORSAC, I wouldn't want to just say that we'll be supported directly, but what I know is that we'll have a lot of strategies to embark on in 2021. And so, and definitely our concentration will still be on women and the youth, or young people, those ones. And so the children are not left behind. We will still ensure that we do a lot of our intervention to ensure children are in school and are safe, and are also taking the lead, especially in their leadership roles and decision making at all levels. And these are some of the things that we'll be doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Haja. But Haja, I'm still coming back to you in relation to International Day of Education. I believe that every year there is a different theme for the celebration, and everyone is supposed to work towards achieving that particular theme. So this year, Recover, Revitalize. What role do you think young people can play to contribute to achieving that theme? So that next year, when we are celebrating International Day of Education with a different theme, we can proudly say that last year was successful.
Yes, so I'm very happy that we are going to focus more on the young people, and I think that we have a lot to play here because everything centers on the young people now. As we are in school, majority are the young people. So what do we do? And I think that we need to take charge for now. We need to protect ourselves first. And just as I mentioned, there's the need, with this team, there's the need to focus more on collaboration.
Okay.
And so for the young people out there who are already in teams and networks, I think that they need to engage with other civil society organizations. It could be NGOs, it could be other organizations within, to look at the schools within their sectors. What can they do to support? And again, I want to say, what support can they give? It can be sensitization, it can be doing community drive back to school. It could be also doing, those of us who have learned skills, I mean the young people, I'm sure a lot have done hand sanitizer, have learned how to do hand sanitizer, have learned how to do nose masks and all that, liquid soap. So this is the time for us all to support. I am just saying that a little income given can do a lot more. And so with this collaboration, if you are in a community where there's a school that you think that you can support, why not? You can just engage and collaborate with other organizations to do that. We want to just look at what can we do within our setting to ensure that people have interest in coming back to school and parents have interest in sending back their children to school. I also want to say that we need to monitor as young people. We need to monitor what is happening that will not put us at risk. As young people, let's still look at if the schools have agreed that they would reschedule classrooms. It's our time to actually, this is the time for us to ensure that it happens. Let's not allow anybody to crowd the class. No, this is going to be risky for all of us. And I think that it doesn't take a big mark to adhere to the protocols. We just have to respond to the protocols, and that is the only safety measure we can take. Because we don't have control over building classrooms, we don't. But I think we have control over saying that we are going to teach 4 hours for a certain group of people, and continue another 4 hours for a certain group that we have control over. So these are things that we can just discuss with parents. So for me, GES should be very fast in taking some of these decisions, because if we take a month before we arrive at this decision, we are losing again. And remember, we are not same. As I have always mentioned, the north is different, the south is different, the rural school is different, and the urban school is different. So, and unfortunately, they are all writing the same exam. So, BECE, they will be writing in November, SHS, they will be writing in September. We don't have control over that. What can we do, the extra mile, to ensure that they are all safe? And so the little we have is what we just have to work on for now. Otherwise, it will not help us at all. And so for me, the youth or the young people out there, those of us who already have some ideas to support schools, let's go in. This is the time for us all to connect. It is not about the GES and it's not about PTA. No, this is about everybody. This is not about government. The government can keep quiet for a long time, but when the exam comes, we are all writing. And so let's act now. And what I know is that we are not sure of the system. You know, they have changed some programming for junior high and senior high school. And this is also going to be another issue that we may be battling, whether textbooks are ready or whatever. I think we are just a country that I cannot describe. But I think we are rushing over so many things. We need to slow down and start things at some level. But if once it is out there, we don't have any control, but we need to look at ourselves and be able to fit in. This is what I can advise. And I think that the young people have to do that. Young people need to have interest in whatever is happening in their community. It's not about your brother or sister is not attending a particular school. You should have interest in whatever happens within your setting, and that is something that I just want to encourage all the young people out there, especially those who have formal or informal networks that they can work with and collaborate with others to ensure that they all work around to keep the children safe in school.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Ajia. She said a lot, and I hope you have heard. I'm very interested in that practical. A lot of you are listening. We need to take this and actually act on that. Like you said, it will help contribute a lot to the situation that we are currently in. I'll come back to Tariq. Tariq, a teacher, young person. So, I mean, you also heard what I just said. Yeah, yeah, part of it. But in relation to you being a teacher, I know for the past weeks or a week, you have been with the students, you have observed what's happening. What would you also advise that teachers like you also do to help contribute to, the current situation we're all in?
It's kind of difficult situation for now, but I think this is the time for us to connect more with our students and their parents. This is the time for us to always reach out to and see how they are faring. I always say that COVID presented us with an opportunity as teachers to become more closer to the wards and that of their parents. Because you realize that in some places they will always have an online system where teachers always have that connection with the kids. They call in or they do video call, they do WhatsApp. But just in our setting, we don't have that opportunity. But it was also an opportunity for teachers to always call in, call parents, and then reach out to the wards and see how they are learning. But in our setting, it was also difficult to do that. So I would say that teachers ensure that they make follow up to certain, especially some of the kids who realize that they have some challenges with regards to learning. This is the time for you to always reach out to them after school. Maybe you have to make some extra time and reach out to the kids, reach out to the parents and see how they are doing. Once you do that for a couple of times, some parents will realize, it means that I have to also do this. Because some parents have actually lost interest in school for their work. So once the teacher is making follow-up to see how the kid is doing, it's also going to tell the parents that, okay, so and so is making efforts to ensure that this kid is up and doing, is still in school. So what can I also do? So I would say that teachers has to make sure they create extra connection with the kids and their parents to ensure that they always learn, they are always in school. It's an opportunity for us to do that, especially in this season. And then if we are able to do that, at least some of the challenges and the burdens that it comes with will be lessened. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Tariq. There is a problem with our phone line. I want to give you this number so you can call through that. We will still receive that. So you can call us through 055 170 3755, 055 170 3755, or send me a text message through 024 26 91461, or comment in a live video on Facebook on the Activate page. The call line is 055 170 3755. Okay. Hi.
Yeah, so as I was saying, we have to ensure that we have that connection with the kids, because it's a time for us to do that, even though there's social distancing, but we can do it in so many forms. In a school, some private schools were doing that, and for us at Lead for Ghana, we're always having that contact with our students. Almost every day, we have to make sure that there is somebody in the household. We take the person's contact. Then, once in a while, you call in, ask the students how he's doing, how he's learning. Sometimes we make efforts to text some lesson materials to them. We have to go extra mile. Government cannot provide this, or will not be able to provide this for us. But we have, as teachers, through passion, we are able to help the kids this way. Once we are doing that, it's also telling parents that they have to do something. Some parents just need to be motivated to buy less reading materials for their kids. They need to realize that learning for kids is very important. Reading when they are in the house is very important. And if you, as a teacher, is able to reach out to them through this means, you are telling the parents that he has to do something. And we are doing that, and it was helping a lot. So I will encourage that. We are still in COVID era, even though students have returned to school, but you have to make follow up to some of them, if not all, especially those who have genuine challenges with regards to learning. We have to do that to ensure that they are always learning when they are in the house. And it's very important because the burden it keeps widening, and the gap is widening, especially between those in the advanced communities and those in the rural communities. If you consider students within Tamil Metro and those in Sanaro district, they are not the same. So even the school environment, you go to classrooms, even fan, as I just said, common fan to provide ventilation is not there. And then students are sweating in this environment. Now it's overcrowding, they are returning to school, and then we have to ensure that we practice the COVID-19 protocols. How do we do that? And then if you are dividing these students, there are about 100 in the class, you are dividing as a teacher. I mean, you are getting extra class to teach. And how do a teacher be able to catch up? How is he able to handle this number of students? The teacher himself will become tired at the end of the day. So it's now going to be a collective effort, as I said. Parents have to come in and then ensure that kids always are learning. Basically, they have to take charge. That's the most important thing. If a student is able to realize that learning is important to me as a student, I have to learn, and they need to be motivated to do that. And it's not only the teacher who is supposed to do that. Parents have to come in, teachers have to work, and then everybody has to work and ensure that they keep learning. It's very important. And then the burden is high, and then we can't say the problems are there. We can't relax. We have to do something, and we have to just start small. As I just said, if you are in the community, we have a lot of youth groups, especially in Tamale. There are a lot of them. Some they are just maybe support each other socially, but we have to now think beyond that. And the schools we have, how do we support them? How do you ensure that students go back to school? Go back to school. Tell parents to send their works back to school. You in the house, make sure that your kids go back to school, they learn. Everybody has to work.
Okay. Yeah, like from the beginning so now, I've been hearing parents. We have a great role to play in this. In relation to motivation, I was telling parents that you don't really need to give something. Just let the student know that you're happy that she's going to school. I mean, it also a form of motivation, because my mom is happy that she wants me there, so you always want to be there, and you're always encouraged to do your best. So if not anything at all, be happy that she's in school or he's in school. Thank you very much, Tariq. In relation to students being overcrowded or classrooms being congested, my campus has taken an initiative, Adia. It's different from the senior high schools and junior high schools level, because we have been divided. So a class now has an alpha and beta, so those people go for lectures. But it happens that within a week, whatever alpha will learn, beta will learn. I mean, whichever lecturer you are going to meet, the other go to meet, but it's not going to be the same time. So that's one of the things. We are separated. COVID-19 has caused so many troubles.
The only issue there is the structure. The structure to do that. And the personnel. Because once the person is handling this, and there is an extra time for him to do a double work, so the burden on him is going to be very high.
It is not on the same day.
Okay.
So you can have hematology today, Monday. The other group can have it on Wednesday. It is mixed, but in any way, by the end of the week, you will all meet the same lecturer.
All right.
That is still double work, because assuming that the person was going to meet 12 times within the trimester, example, Now he's going to meet
24.
So for me, it's still work. We just need to look at what can we do to keep them motivated.
Okay.
And that is one thing we are not very good at. The northern part here. You see, when I say northern part, you see, we were those. When we were growing up, we felt that people were coming to learn more about generosity from the north. But now we have changed. So for me, I think that we need to come back to that level of showing concern, of motivating people beyond just what they are tasked to do. Because now COVID is going to give more people more work. And that is what we need to take on board.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so it's necessary, very necessary motivation. We need to motivate them to, keep on. Because they may give up because it's not an easy thing. Thank you very much, Adia. We have just a few minutes left. It's sad. We have problem with our phone line, but I have some messages on the Facebook live video I'll get to you before we leave here. Before that, Adia, I want you to briefly, it's time, but just briefly, in relation to rural schools and community schools, what do you think we can all do? To somehow we can close it for now, like somehow work towards closing or bridging that gap.
Let me also say that I was once a teacher.
Okay.
And I feel for teachers, especially those in the rural areas. What I feel is that we need to keep them motivated to go there. And I also see a very big risk factor there because they move from urban, most of them move from urban to the rural community. And you see, this part of the country, we don't even believe that COVID is real. So sometimes people will even die and we don't even think that is COVID. That perception is killing us. And so people can send the viruses to the rural, I'm just talking about the teachers. And so we need to look beyond just their movement and ensuring that they protect themselves and the children are protected as well. It will pain me that a very far community, who has difficulty in reaching health facility gets COVID. It won't just look good. So we need to give a lot more motivation to the rural teacher to have that passion. They should already have the passion because before you become you have a career, you should have a passion for it. So I assume that everybody is passionate about the work they are doing. And so we just need to lift them a little up. And I have mentioned this to some education directors before, that you see, what package can we give to the rural teacher to keep the rural teacher motivated to stay? Not to stay forever, right? But to do the best that they can do. Because the urban teacher has a bigger advantage than the rural teacher, especially those who have gone to stay in the community. So I think that the rural school, they are already disadvantaged, one, by the structure. Some of them don't even have. Some of them, they have only 3 classrooms that accommodates nursery, primary, and junior high school, right? And some of them just have 2 teachers to take all these classrooms. That is magic. I can't imagine this. So that's the reality we find in many of the rural communities. And so this is something that we need to discuss. And I think that that's why I said we need to refocus on our educational setup. It's not just the classroom setting. It's about ensuring that every teacher does well based on the task he or she is given. And also, let's not overburden teachers on certain things. These are things that we have to look at again. So for me, the rural school, we just need to have another day to discuss that.
A full session.
Because I have so much interest in the rural school.
Okay.
Because I think that they are growing, and we need to look at what can we do. And for me, I will wish that on that day we get some education director to be part here to see how we can all work together. It's not just about they're sending the teacher there. The teacher can go to school every day, but will not deliver. What should we do? These are the questions that we should be asking ourselves. So let's see how we bring on board. In fact, this is the time for us to be generous. This is the time for us to have concern for teachers. This is the time for us to take care of ourselves and the children. And so I think that we have to just change our way of doing things. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. I generally change your way of doing things. We are not in normal time. Yeah, so we have to adapt to everything. Just ensure that we stay safe and protect others. Thank you very much. Like I said, it's time. I want to read these messages I have. Yes, so okay. So I have some few messages here. This one says, thank you very much for this program. How are you doing, Rahama? Okay, I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, Bawa. It's a nice program. Okay. Ibrahim Muhammad, Bakomata, Abdul Basit Ibn Karim, Kamal Din Habib, Rula Bawa, and okay, these are the people who have commented on the video on Facebook. Thank you very much for watching. But to you who isn't watching us on Facebook and listening to us, for you not being able to call in today, we are really sorry. We have a challenge with our phone, and we will get that resolved so that next week we can hear from you. But you can still go to Facebook. I believe we all have Facebook apps. Just type active youth. But anything that you still have, leave it there for us. We'll still see it. And when we're having the next discussion, we will look at that again. I just want to come to you and have your last word. So come to Tariq. We've had a lot of discussions today. Generally, from what we had, what is the last thing you say to me and my activist colleagues out there who are listening to us?
I would say that there was something that I've gone to a few communities during the COVID era. We're just checking on schools, and I've realized that some of the schools were abandoned. No lockers, classrooms were not locked. It was used for cattle were using the classroom as their sleeping places, goats, sheep, and all those. Like you see the classroom, it doesn't look like classroom again. And now students are returning to this particular environment. Some of the desks were broken, like it was devastating. Now, even most of the things I heard from the community members was that there is no more school again, that the students will not return to school.
Yeah,
so that assumption has made people to think that the classroom, since there is no school, then what is the need for the classroom again? And now they are returning to school. So I would say that we have youth in those communities. It is a time for us to come up and support the school system. We have to support the teachers. At least this broken chairs, what can we do to ensure that at least they are repaired and fixed so that students can sit on it? Because you can't wait for the government or a district to come and do this for you. It will take time, and students have to keep learning. So what can we do? Even though the mindset has already created that problem for us, and now the schools have resumed, what can we do? So let's come together and ensure that students are able to return to the environment that at least is comfortable for learning. Because now unless you see the way the classroom were, you will not even step foot inside. And now they are returning to this environment. It's worrisome.
Thank you very much, Tariq. Lead for Ghana Fellow. Aja.
I just want for this program. I just hope that we'll continue to have another discussion on this, because for me, the ownership at the community level, if it's not strengthened, this is what we'll always have. And that is what I always say. Even if you think that the school is not coming back, don't you need a structure for other things? These are questions that these are questions that we should just ask them, and they feel bad because this is not your money. This is government money. So do you just want it to go wasted? So there are a lot of things that we need to bring out ourselves. The inner passion should come. Otherwise, there's no way we can own anything. We have to take ownership as a community. If they build a school for you, it's not for government. The school is for the community. And I just want to end my discussion by saying that every human being sees his or her working place as a motivation. And so if the teachers go to the school and it looks like that as a community, I mean, these are human beings, right? So if a teacher dresses well and comes, in fact, I was expecting that I go to the school and the community will keep the school very well, you know, because that's not my community. Then I come and the school is like a wretched place. What motivation would the teacher have? It's not for the teacher to come and clean the school. That's not the way. So we need, as a community, we need to work harder and own processes. We need to own everything that is in the community. Whether it's government school or whatever, that is for the community. Now, is it not your children who are going to the school? So I just want to end by saying that, yes, as youths, the youth have to come on board and ensure that some of these things that we are talking about, they take them up. And it's not for any purpose, but it's for them to also lead for the other generation to follow. And that is what I will use to end, and still continue to say that let's be more generous in this time. If a parent goes to the school, if you have an extra sanitizer, please give it to the children. Give it to other children who don't have. Give it to teachers to motivate them. If you have additional nose masks, please give it to the teachers. Give it to the school. I mean, just to keep them and let them feel that people have concern for them. And this is what we have to do in this era. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hajia Hafsat Seismani, Head of Programs, Policy and Campaigns, NOSAC. I hope I'm very right this time. And Tarek, Lead Ghana Fellow. It's been an interesting session with you. But before we go, I just want to highlight some of the things we said, key things that I also picked and want to remind listeners about. One key thing I just said was on collaboration. We need to collaborate more this time. And she emphasized more on youth networks in the region to work together and also work with other civil society organizations within the region to ensure that we are able to support schools and school children in any little way we can. She also emphasized that those who have skills in the sewing of nose masks, sanitizers, all those materials needed to help us in the fight against COVID-19. We should use our skills wisely by helping other people who are not able to acquire those materials. One other thing that we said was a key thing we said here was on parents, a very important thing. I think everything is centered on them. Even if much is done in school and the parent does not do anything, it will be a wastage. So parents should do well to have interest in the safety of their children, in the education of their children, and motivate them by showing interest and also helping in any little way they can, and also helping to advise them, educate them, talk to them more about how they can keep safe, especially in school and among other students as well. So much was discussed. It was all about the International Day of Education, but we're going to have more discussions later in relation to this. But before that, I just want to say it was nice speaking with you, and I hope you learned so much today. My name is Activity Sarah Hama, you host for the Activity program, and I'll see you next week. Bye.